So I wanted to ask, I don't know whether this is provocative or not. Uh, it seems to me that the pendulum has swung a little bit further than it should, right? When I mean, 15 years ago, nobody was talking about mental health, and that was the extreme. Now the pendulum has swung. Like people are self-diagnosing. Everybody now, like it seems like sometimes when I talk to younger people, there's a lack of distinction between being sad and being depressed, being anxious and having anxiety. And I see people self-diagnosing all the time. Do you think that's a fair assessment, or am I exaggerating? Be honest.
Yeah, be honest. Okay, it got actually very funny. It's like one psychologist, like I was trained in sociology, or I think you're like political science, like
Yes.
very social science kind of like discussion here. Okay, so from a very structural sociologist point of view, I would just think through. Actually, I view a lot of these things. I mean, as someone who also advocates for lived experiences, like I think when someone says that they have anxiety, like to the extent of maybe saying that they maybe have like generalized anxiety disorder, even if it's not diagnosed yet, or maybe it's diagnosed. I feel like it's saying something that is actually reflecting what they're going through, right? And I think when these things happen, I ask myself, what is happening for this individual, and I think that's why it's so important maybe for us not to focus too much on pathology and illness and diagnosis, because like these things that people say probably mean something that we should dig deeper into.
Hmm. So it's not so much as in the diagnosis is not as important as the process. The fact that they are saying it is already reflective of something, and we have to take it seriously.
It's a reflective
Yeah,
that
that's
they're
I guess my
experiencing
viewpoint.
something, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm a clinical psychologist, so I can't talk about the structural issues, but I think most people who come in to our clinic who say they're not feeling well, they're not feeling well. I've yet to find someone who says, I've been feeling low, and then we go like, oh, actually, everything's great. Because there is we may not know why, but there's a gut feeling often that something's not quite right. I think the idea of labeling, that's an interesting point you're bringing up. Are we over labeling things? Um, I'll say kind of yellow sometimes, but I think it's a way for people to it's a heuristic that people are using to try to communicate to others there's something not quite right, right? And they're using it in some maybe the layman terms. They're saying anxiety, they're saying depression, but they don't necessarily mean clinical. I would say the only thing is don't Google everything. Like it can be detrimental
Right.
because everything's on a continuum,
Right.
right? So
Right.
if you're not, but I tell people, because people ask me, how do you know people are not faking it? I said, you don't know. And why would someone fake it, fake it usually for such a stigmatized, uh, uh, you know, for stigmatized illnesses like, the various mental illnesses. Rarely do people actually want to do it, and if they're faking ill, there is something wrong, right?
Right.
There's something is going on, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Happy, healthy people
Yeah.
don't fake ill,
So
so either way, something's
yeah,
not
yeah.
quite right, and yeah.
Right, right. So you're definitely right. I think I agree with you that even if they're faking it, that shows that there's something wrong, right? But to just to push you a little, so I mean, you said why would they fake it, right? Or what's to begin? Well, there could be the idea of social acceptance if on social media it gives you, because I think social media
Yeah,
is a crucial part of this. That I think it's an extremely
yeah,
important part, and I mean I am thankful. I think Rayner is a bit younger. So maybe he did grow up with social media a bit. But I'm just thankful that I didn't grow up with social media, because I know that it would have affected me in ways I cannot
right,
imagine.
right, right.
So yeah, there could be some
Yeah,
sort of, yeah.
but isn't that worrying, right? Like that all your friends are saying in order for me to be accepted, I have to be
Yes.
sad. I don't think you are healthy in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? And so they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
found we are ironically on Instagram, that there are certain dark networks in Instagram because of the algorithm would then
Right.
promote to you certain accounts that can actually make your mental health worse. So if you
Yeah.
put anything about distress, then you start seeing more accounts that are mentioning that, and that has been shown to actually increase the rate of suicide. The same for eating disorders. I mean, that has been highlighted
Yeah.
in the U.S. Senate. So, I think perhaps people might be doing it for attention or for social acceptance, but that is to me also indicative that that this is a community around illness and not health, and there is something wrong if we all get together and says like, oh, my story of distress is worse than yours, and
Yeah.
my story of distress, and we don't know how to be accepted in a healthy way,
Right.
in a way that actually is promotive.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was useful.